Okay, Geeta Dhyanam. Om. O Bhagavad Gita, by which Arjuna was illumined by Lord Krishna himself, and which was composed of 18 chapters of the Mahabharata by the ancient sage Vyasa. O Divine Mother, destroyer of rebirth, who showers the nectar of oneness upon us, O Bhagavad Gita, my affectionate mother, on thee I meditate. All the Upanishads are the cows. The milker is the cowherd boy, Krishna. Arjuna is the calf. People of purified intellect are the drinkers. And the milk is the supreme nectar of the Gita. My salutations to the Lord, who is the bestower of supreme bliss, whose grace makes the mute eloquent and the crippled cross mountains. Hari Om Tat Sat. What a gift it is to be able to have a deep dive in the Gita like this together, isn't it? Yeah, it's really something. So yesterday was the mother of all meditation teaching, 6:15. And let me pick up from here. But we can read it one more time as we go. Yes? Yes. Okay. Just being present for this. By steadily and continuously practicing yoga in this way, the yogi wins over his or her mind and realizes the peace that is my nature. And this in turn naturally leads to nirvana. Okay, and we had read yesterday, let me pick up here. It's impossible to practice yoga effectively if you eat or sleep either too much or too little. But if you are moderate in eating, playing, sleeping, staying awake, and avoiding extremes in everything you do, you will see that these yoga practices eliminate all of your pain and suffering. This is the middle path that the Buddha speaks of, So, but craving's not part of it. Craving's not part of it. We've had some good discussions about this weather vane, the mental state that helps us to see. Usually the thoughts, worldly life, the thoughts are so fast and furious that you don't even see them, right? We've just merged with the thoughts. But if we take a break from ourselves and through the practice are able to observe, then we can see, this is craving. If you have a thought about a thing when the thing is not present, that's craving. Related to, I want it, I need it, I don't like it, I didn't like it. Right? That's craving or aversion. Same. And here we're able to see what it's coming from, where it's arising. And so middle path supports this yoga. Okay, so we continue. 18. When you have your mind well trained so it rests solely in Atman without wanting anything, right? And the parallel to without wanting anything is without not wanting anything. Also, in other words, not having aversion or not having craving for. Then you are established in yoga. And here Swamiji sees fit to add parentheses, union with God. So to differentiate the practice of yoga from the state of yoga. The well-trained mind of a yogi concentrating on the self is as steady as a flame in a windless place. Yeah. Can we visualize those two? There's a beautiful commentary here we'll share as well, but can we visualize it? Can we see what's being shared? Can we feel it? So does it become real, this opportunity to have the mind always in God, this brahmacharya? Where it doesn't leave, where nothing would disturb the state? Huh? When we understand this, we can look at this time and say, oh yeah, this is a great practice. Yes? This is the best practice. Thank you, Lord. When the one you think is your friend says something nasty to you. When everybody's arguing about this or that, trying to get you on their side. Great time, yes? Oh. So here's the commentary from Swami Venkatesananda. And his translation, when the perfectly controlled mind rests in the self only, free from longing for all the objects of desire, then it is said, he is united. Okay, we have to do this. We have to read the word for word translation in this. So 6th Discourse 18. It's very interesting how they're taking this, he is united. Swami Satchidananda is getting the same. Okay, here's the word for word. When perfectly controlled mind in the self only rests, free from longing, from all objects of desires, united thus is said then. So, direct translation. And 19 is where attains quietude, mind, restrained by the practice of yoga, where and only by the self seeing in the self is satisfied. Every one of those is capitalized, just so we understand. One more time? Just to... It's quite something. Where attains quietude, mind, restrained by the practice of yoga, where and only by the self seeing in the self is satisfied. So there's no little self in this sutra. The self seeing the self in the self is satisfied. Oh. Okay, here's the commentary. Again and again, Krishna reminds us that control of mind and yoga imply non-attachment, which itself does not mean vain, foolish, and egoistic hatred of or running away from anything in this world, nor deluded cruelty inflicted upon one's own body. So, if we catch this, it puts to rest most of the notions that we have about yoga practice. Right? I'm renouncing all my responsibilities, all my duties. Oh no, that's right. So non-attachment to fruit, right? Non-attachment to the gain to be made or the loss. Non-attachment is an intelligent understanding of the real nature of the soul as the image of God, and the body, mind, and ego as the external nature of God. The body, mind, and ego provide an abode for the individualized self to dwell in, to become perfect, and thus witness the reality of God. It's beautiful. This is the temple. Peace Pilgram speaks of the body being the temple. So this affliction where the soul takes itself to be individual, so the individualized soul comes into the temple in order to live in a way is to realize the pervasive truth of God everywhere. The body exists even as the house exists. So he's not negating the body. But what is it is a question. So, temple, body of God. It comes into contact with various objects of this world, even as the house comes into contact with the wind, rain, and sunshine. From these contacts, the mind is continually learning its lessons in this vast school of the world. However, ignorance attributes pleasure and pain to the objects and experiences, and consequently reacts with attachment and aversion. These are the factors that keep the individual soul in bondage. They constantly disturb the inner equilibrium, being themselves the fruits of inner disharmony. If the mind is not at peace, life is a nightmare, a string of endless trials. We have the same concept we were working with on Thursday in our meeting outside, which is in terms of how do we relate to these experiences, to virus transmission and all of that. And the point is, it doesn't affect the soul at all, right? But it does have a relationship with the body. So, just as the house, and it's a good concept. Sometimes we say car, right? The body is like the car, like the vehicle. And here he's also saying house. So the house, the body, is what's coming into contact with all of this. And so there is a duty and there is an impact. Although the soul, in a way, is isolated from it, how we choose to manage the thoughts and words and actions of this mind and body do affect bondage, this question of bondage or liberation. So the yogi's mind, on the other hand, is like a lamp in a windless spot, burning calmly and steadily, illuminating all that surrounds it. This is one of the reasons why the seeker has a lamp or a candle burning at the altar always, to remind him of the ideal he is striving for. It should never be forgotten that this inner harmony should prevail at all times, not only during meditation. The lamp is a windless place. It is not inert, but it is unimaginably intense activity called combustion. Similarly, the yogi's steady mind is not dull. It is the home of blossoming insight. In that insight, life flows on uninterruptedly, blissfully, in strict accordance with God's will. It's a good commentary, yes? So, and the concept of meditation comes up again, chapter on meditation, the concept comes up again. And we know we have family joining us online as well. So this is for all of us. Again, the common notion of meditation is absolutely not meditation. The common notion is related to the practice of meditation. And so this was what he was referring to, was the mind wants to be steady, not just in meditation, but the other concept of meditation is it's the state. So, and from that perspective, we would say meditation is to continue regardless of whether you're sitting, standing, walking, talking, singing, working, not working. Meditation is to continue. Here, meditation means the state of equanimity, the state of balanced mind. So, and that's called, when that's constant, there's our samadhi. Again, samadhi is this beautiful teaching word. What is samadhi? Samadhi is samadhi, the equanimity, balance of the intellect, not just mind, but very specifically intellect, which only comes when that intellect is not making choices all the time, but has made one choice and becomes an instrument. Then that's samadhi, seeing the one, right? It's really a choice to see made by the intellect. Having come to the realization that it's true, there is an underlying factor underlying everything here, and that is the reality that I'm seeing. And that underlying factor is of the nature of Satchidananda. So having explored and having discovered this, and then having chosen, then I will see it everywhere. And having chosen this, and of course the practices, meditation practice, karma yoga, all of these are practices of meditation, helping us, intellect, get to this point. And having chosen that, what other choices to be made? Right? There's the work of, stuff happens. You told Durga, bring it on, and in a way, and I laughed at the time, and I said, okay, if you really intend this, that's good. Be prepared, and stay firm. Because when we say, I will do this, then that seeing, we can ask what is God's will, and here we can say, yeah, this is God's will. God's will is for us to see. Right? We can say that. Unequivocally, we can say that. It's absolutely true. And so that means that the force of the universe will conspire in order to help you get what you want. Heaven and earth will move in order that you can get the opportunity to have what you want. Okay, next. 20 and 21. When the mind restrained by the practice of yoga attains to quietude, and when seeing the self by the self, he is satisfied in his own self. When he, the yogi, feels that infinite bliss, which can be grasped by the pure intellect and which transcends the senses, and established wherein he never moves from the reality. So having passed the test, having the resolve, the firm resolve, having the participation of the universe, Lord, in the form of, and being able to remain steady, then he never moves from the reality. This is the breaking through. This is the breaking through. Continuing, having obtained which he thinks there is no superior gain, wherein established he is not moved even by heavy sorrow. So this is the point at which the yogi, the sadhaka, the yogi, and as defined by the intellect, as defined by the conscious mind, Because the conscious mind, that's where the choice is made. That's the discernment. So when we say yogi, we're talking about the conscious mind, the intellect. Capital Y, of course, is that which is in union, that which is now a full-on instrument of the light, and which doesn't waver from the light any longer. But at this point, having experienced the meditator, capital M, having experienced the Lord, having had the confirmation that it's true that the Lord is everywhere and everything, having had it, then what is to be gained here? What is needed? What is to be avoided here? Right? So then what happens to the state of the mind? Now what?
It feels what it's needed is to keep that experience.
At some point, when it knows that it doesn't have to fight to maintain anything, and it doesn't even have that desire, it will simply rest in the self.
It abides.
It abides. It abides, and nothing will shake it. Because there's no desire remaining. There's no personal desire remaining at that point. What's to be gained? Right? And no personal aversion remaining at that point. What's to be left? So this is the point where we say pure instrument now. And this is Savikalpa Samadhi. This is Savikalpa Samadhi. It's not still, there's the concept of God in the conscious mind, or concept of universal, or concept of love, however it's related to, still the concept is existing. And still from a practical matter, it seems as if there is God and there is me.
Yeah.
And so for the intellect, that continues to be a way of relating. What's really happening is that there is the unity, the levels of the unity. And so one level of the unity, which is a bit closer to the surface than the depth, one level of the unity is relating to the depth. As if it's apart, but you see that also naturally dissolves, that separation naturally dissolves. So, just for a moment, so Savikalpa Samadhi naturally leads also to Nirvikalpa Samadhi. There's not a choice at that point. It naturally leads to it. The otherness fades. And we see it. It just naturally fades. It becomes like a shadow. And Peace Pilgrim talks about renouncing that feeling of separation, right? Which is a part of the process, but it's, by this point, one has realized that there's nothing separate, that all of this is body of God. And that I'm not a part. Beautiful. So 22 and 23 together. Having obtained which, he thinks that there is no other superior gain. So it's actually a thought. There's nothing else to be gained. I'll just stay here. Wherein established, he's not moved even by heavy sorrow. Sorrow still, it's not said that sorrow is not experienced. That's also an idea. That happiness or satisfaction is the removal from sorrow. But that's not said here. But not moved by it. Not moved by it. Let that be known by the name of yoga, the severance from union with pain. Can we do the word by word on that? So the end of the union with pain, the end of the bhoga, the end of the union with pain, the end of the union with the objects. And the objects are the source of that. That union with the objects is the source of pain. Okay. 6, sorry. And that's 23. That, let him know, a state of severance from union with pain. So that's the literal translation. Called by the name of yoga, capital Y. That with determination should be practiced. Yoga with undesponding mind. Undesponding, meaning not being despondent. Let that be known by the name of yoga, the severance from union with pain. This yoga should be practiced with determination, with an undesponding mind. And I'll read Swami Master Shivananda's commentary. He says in verses 20, 21, and 22, so those were just prior that we've covered, the Lord describes the benefits of yoga, that is, perfect satisfaction by resting in the self, infinite, unending bliss, freedom from sorrow and pain, etc. He further adds that this yoga should be practiced with a firm conviction and iron determination and with non-depression of heart. A spiritual aspirant with a wavering mind will not be able to attain success in yoga. He will leave the practice when he meets with some obstacles on the path. The practitioner must also be bold, cheerful, and self-reliant. So resolved? How would you know where you are without obstacles on the path?
You can't.
You can't. It's so, isn't it? Yeah. You can't. So the obstacles are the great teachers, aren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry. Questions, comments, anything else?
So there still can be, you said, a very strong sorrow, like from the obstacle,
Yeah.
but you're still establishing yourself, basically, you're still hanging on.
Yeah.
Jesus.
So loss of someone that's very close, physical loss of the teacher, something like this, or like that. So sorrow will still come. It will come into the mind.
The famous.
But also the light is there at the same time. So, and the awareness, for example, he's not gone.
Right. Yeah. No, it's still there.
He's not gone. He just got bigger. Yeah.
That's true.
So, but that statement doesn't mean that there's not a feeling of sorrow in here somewhere. You say, I am fullness. This every one of us could make this same statement. I am fullness. You want to try it? I am fullness. I am fullness. So everything is within me. It's true, by the way. It's practical. How many different people are within me? How many different voices? How many different ideas? We're learning to follow one and not follow others, right? We're learning to differentiate. And that's this process of union.
Right.
But it doesn't mean that sorrow is not there. Sorrow is here in the world, it's also inside.
Yeah. The most famous 2-word sentence in the Bible.
Yes.
Jesus wept.
Jesus wept, yeah. Beautiful. Yeah. But he didn't forget who he was.
No.
Oh, thank you. Okay, we close with final prayers and arati. You're only out for 10 days, right? Okay, we won't get too far down. And you can join in the morning.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Okay. Page 174. Om Trayambakam Yajamahe Sugandhim Pushti Vardhanam Orvai Rukameva Bandhanan Mritor Mukshiyamamritata Om Trayambakam Yajamahe Sugandhim Pushti Vardhanam Orvai Rukameva Bandhanan Mritor Mukshiyamamritata Om Trayambakam Yajamahe Sugandhim Pushti Vardhanam Orvai Rukameva Bandhanan Mritor Mukshiyamamritata Om Sarvesham Swastir Bhavatu Sarvesham Shantir Bhavatu Sarvesham Purnam Bhavatu Sarvesham Mangalam Bhavatu Sarve Bhavantu Sukhina Sarve Shantu Niramaya Sarve Bhadrani Pashyanto Makashitu Kabhak Bhave Asato ma Satgamaya Tamaso ma Jyotir Gamaya Mrityor ma Mritam Gamaya Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudashyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Adorable Lord of mercy and love, salutations and prostrations unto Thee. Thou art omnipresent, omnipotent, and omniscient. Thou art Satchidananda. Thou art existence, knowledge, and bliss absolute. Thou art the indweller of all beings. Grant us an understanding heart, equal vision, balanced mind, faith, devotion, and wisdom. Grant us inner spiritual strength to resist temptation and to control the mind. Free us from egoism, lust, anger, greed, hatred, and jealousy. Fill our hearts with divine virtues. Let us behold Thee in all these names and forms. Let us serve Thee in all these names and forms. Let us ever sing Thy glories. Let Thy name be ever on our lips. Let us abide in Thee forever and ever. On below Sakura Shivananda Maharaj Ki, and for all the saints and sages of all traditions.
Jai.